Hey guys, it's Jeremy from Lighthouse Creative Co., offering creative production and consulting services for artists of all kinds in all places. I meant to make and post this video last week, but last week I finally got around to making some acoustic treatment for this little room that I do all my projects in, that I mix in here at my house. And it took a little longer than I thought it would, but it's finally done, so you're getting the video now. If you think you can hear a difference compared to videos that I've already posted, let me know down below. I've got a cloud up here, I've got some first and rear reflection points behind my monitors and to the side, and I've got 3 behind the camera that you can't see right now. And it's, 3.5 inches or about 9 centimeters of rock wool inside some wood frames covered with black fabric, because black goes with everything. If you're an acoustic guitar player like I am, and you're not always ready to go out and buy a couple pedals and dedicate them to your acoustic rig, we're going to look at how Ableton Live serves as a great way to make an acoustic pedal board for effects that you would love to use with it. And this is great if you're, a solo musician or a singer-songwriter, or even if you're a worship leader in big or small contexts, and you're already using Ableton Live to make tracks and to play keys. It serves as a great option to use as a pedal board, and I'm going to show you how to do that. One of the things you'll need to make this possible is to use an audio interface, and it can be as big or small as you want. I'm currently using a Focusrite Claret 8 Pre X, but for mobile situations you can use something like the 2 Pre or the 4 Pre or the Universal Audio Aero, or any one of those smaller interfaces would be great for this concept. You just want to make sure you have a line in or an XLR in and a line out, and make sure that you can get both signal in and signal out to front of house. The other thing you want to have is a MIDI foot controller pedal. Today we're going to be using the Loop Community Looptimus. It's what I use. It's a great pedal. It's got lots of switches, it's got lots of banks, and it's just really versatile and durable for what we're going to be programming today. Okay, so we have Ableton Live opened at the desk. The first thing that we are going to want to check is actually our sample rate. So if you go under Preferences here in Ableton Live, and you see the sample rate, you want as low of sample rate as you can get. And the purpose of this is so there's no delay between when you actually strum your guitar to when the audio goes into the interface and into Ableton Live and gets processed and then is able to shoot back out. My Mac Mini here that I'm working on right now is about the same specs as my MacBook Pro, and I've just found that 256 or 512 samples is about the sweet spot. I don't really notice any difference between the two, so I operate at 512 just for safety in that. So you can exit out of that, and now we're going to start afresh with one audio track. So we have one audio track here, and we want to make sure that our external input is set to our audio interface, and so for me that's input 1 on the Focusrite Claret. And now we can start adding effects. And so the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to add in a EQ, and this EQ won't be attached to any foot switch on the Looptimus over here. This is merely for input shaping, for shaping the tone of the guitar before it hits any of the effects. Just minor tweaks here and there, maybe a cut, maybe a boost. Whatever works for your gear, whatever sounds best in your room, that's what it's for. And so I'm just going to drag in the EQ8 in Ableton Live, and that's usually there. I know I usually operate with a dip right around 200-ish hertz. Maybe a 2 dB dip, and that's usually all I do. If anything else, I might boost a little bit of the highs, but that's what we're going to do. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a compressor. And my favorite compressor is actually one that I tweaked off a stock effect in Ableton. So I just called that Live Acoustic Compressor, and I'm going to bring that in and drop that. And so this just works really well for my setup, for my rig, for my guitar. And I want this to be mapped onto a switch on my Looptimus, so I can really engage it when I do some finger picking, when I need a little bit more control. So how I want to do that is I'm going to enter MIDI map mode in Ableton, and I'm going to click on the activator or the power button of this effect, and I'm just going to map it to number 1. And the mode that the loop to miss is in is just a default MIDI note mode. So it's just setting MIDI notes. That's all it's doing. So I've got that mapped, and now I have control of that compressor. On and off, on, off. And that's that. And we're going to do that for a few other things. So the other two that I really like having are some delay. So I'm going to just go on down to simple delay. I'm going to open that up, and I want one of the delays I want is a quarter note delay. The other is a dotted eighth note delay. We're going to bring the dry wet signal down to about 44-45% for both of them because I still want that prominent dry signal. And then I'm going to turn the feedback down to about 40 for both. And again, I'm going to enter into MIDI map mode, and I'm going to map the activators to my corresponding switches. So now I've got delays on and off. The next thing I want to do is add a reverb. My first reverb, I'm going to have 2. My first reverb is going to be a simple verb, nothing special. So I'm going to drop the reverb in, just the stock reverb plugin. I'm going to take away the high cut and put a low cut around 300 hertz. And then I'm going to take off all the funky stuff like the spin and the chorus and the diffusion. I'm going to add a little bit decay time, and I'm going to add a little bit more pre-delay. So I still get that attack of the guitar, but then the verb kicks in. And this is just this is not a verb that's modulated. It's not a verb that's cavernous or deep. It's just something so the guitar is not as dry. Because the Lush reverb that I'm going to use is actually one of my favorite reverb plugins. It's one of my favorite pedals, and they made a plugin in it. It's the New Neighbor Wet reverb, and so I'm going to drag that in. And I already have a preset that I've made called Guitar. And it's just a nice, deep, long, kind of haunting, kind of ambient verb for the guitar. And again, I'm going to enter MIDI map mode, and I'm going to map this reverb to that. I'm going to map the wet reverb to that. So now I've got, in essence, a whole pedal board going. Got a compressor, 2 delays, and 2 reverbs. Oh, I need to map those, don't I? Map that. And 2 reverbs. Now, the secret sauce of this whole project lies in impulse responses. And I get a lot of questions, and people are just like, Jeremy, isn't like the IR thing like something only the Iridium or the Line 6? Is that where you use them? Yes, but there is a company that makes a plugin where you can drop impulse responses in. And that company is Lancaster Audio. And they make a free $0 plugin called the Pulse IR Loader, or Pulse. And this simply lets you drop in external impulse responses that you may have into your workstation, into your DAW. And so I already have some acoustic impulse responses from a company called 3 Sigma Audio. And I believe these are just the Gibson J45 impulse responses. I have a Gibson. It's like a Gibson Songmaker. And so I'm using this Gibson. And my favorite that I found so far is this Piezo 3C. And it interacts well with my guitar, and it interacts with my system really well. And so I'm going to open that up. And the cool thing about this plugin is that it gives you the option of mono, dual mono, and stereo. And I love a real wide guitar sound, especially when you're using delays and effects. And so I put it into stereo mode, and I open both impulse responses on both sides, and I set it to stereo. Now, one thing to remember, if you're doing stereo, make sure you have more than one output on the back of your interface. The majority of interfaces will at least have a left and right, so you're set there. And so this is all set, and so that's our pedal board right here. We've got compressor, we've got delays, we've got verbs, and we have some impulse response to kind of help shape, depending on what we're going for, depending on the venue, depending on the system. It really helps just bring it all together and make sure you have a great guitar sound all the way through. And with the loop to miss, the great thing about the loop to miss is that it's multi-bank, or it's got multiple pages. And so this first bank or first page is dedicated to the MIDI control, but I'm going to use a second bank to really hone in on something I love doing, and that's using some pads in the background. So if you're a worship leader, especially in a smaller context, or if you're a solo singer-songwriter that wants some just stuff behind you while you play, this can really come in handy. And so the first thing we're going to do is open a MIDI channel, and one of the synth programs or pad programs that I use is, again, by Loop Community, the same people that made the Loop to Miss. It's called the Pad Pilot, and it's a simple MIDI instrument that takes up almost no CPU, that allows you to use the built-in pads in it. And so we're gonna type in a couple. So this first pad is going to be an F sharp. I tuned my guitar a half step down, so my G shape is actually an F sharp, and my C is a B. And so now I've got these programmed, and I'm going to go into the second bank of the loop to miss and open up the MIDI map mode. And instead of mapping just to these individual MIDI clips, I'm going to control the play, the scene up and down, and to stop the pads, I'm going to map it to the actual channel stop on the Pad Pilot. And the thing about this is this stop button works across all banks. So now that we have control of that, let me make sure you're able to hear this. So now that we have control of that, I can launch this first pad. There it is. And I'm also able to adjust it. So I'm going to take the shimmer down, going to brighten it up a bit. And I have control, and I can stop it. So essentially now I have two controls for my single controller. So my first bank, my first page, is all acoustic effects. So I can turn my compressor on, I can make sure my quarter note delay's on, and my regular reverb's on. At the same time, I can go into the next bank and trigger the next pad. And there we have it. Two great functions, all from one program, with acoustic effects as well as backing tracks or pads or clicks, whatever you want to put. It's expandable, it's condensable, make it work for you. And so check out this demo, and that's what we're going to look at. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Remember to like and subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate it. Click that bell so you can get notified whenever I put out new content. Hope to see you guys at the next one. See ya.